I'll just. Hey, welcome to another episode of Reels and Heels. And today we're going to do something a bit different and a little bit more serious. It is February, so it is Black History Month. And since we're an entertainment show, we're going to look at the Black community in Hollywood and TV shows. And oh, that's awesome. I like that shirt, Willow.
That's a shirt that I got from Starbucks. That's one of our stand together shirts.
So today we have two special guests. We have Mark B. Lee. How you doing, Mark?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. And we have Greg, who's a good Facebook friend of mine for many years.
Hey.
Yeah. So you want to kind of do that little spiel that you gave me about the whole respectful
I
thing?
didn't know I had to do it like out loud.
Yeah, go ahead.
He always does this to me. So being a teacher, I guess I'll start with this. Like being a teacher, I always feel like I'm ill-equipped to handle some of the history and some of the conversations that should and could be had, just because I'm white, I guess. And so when we do stuff like this, we always want to touch with that whole, like, being respectful and coming from a point of understanding and love and honor, because so many of the people that we've grown up with essentially have taught us about our social needs and our social norms. And so if we didn't see that on TV and we didn't hear it in our music, then we wouldn't have any understanding at all. So we want to kind of come with that honor and that respect and that love, because it's so important. That's sort of what I said, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, we totally want to be very respectful to the culture. And, you know, in this day and age, there's so many people that just get offended over everything. So we just wanted to make sure that we got that out. So I wanted to start with Chadwick Boseman.
I need to not read the comments.
Who is a big, huge, over the last years, influence in the Black community, and especially with Black Panther, which opened the doors worldwide, I think. And I'll start with you, Mark. When you hear the name Chadwick Boseman, what does that name mean to you?
Well, actually, considering recent events prior to his death, I thought he was just an actor, just a very good actor at that. But to find out what he was going through while he was acting, and what he was actually doing while he was going through what he was going through, makes me place him on the top of my list in terms of honorable people, and not people, just not just a person of color, but the fact that our people have withheld pain for so long and so often, that to find an individual that was literally withholding pain, physical pain, not just mental pain, that many of my people withhold all the time. But I just find him, head above shoulders in terms of an honorable person. I mean, this is one of the strongest African-American individuals that I have actually heard of, because I don't know the man personally. So it's just in a way, I'm much like him. I withhold a lot of pain too, mental pain and currently physical pain. I just stopped some medication as of last night because it was giving me a horrible cough, but it's medication that I need. And I don't share my pain with a lot of people. I just don't. And Chadwick is the same sort of person, so I understand him a lot more than I thought. Because I've been doing the same thing for decades. I just don't share. Not necessarily saying that's an honorable thing, not to share your pain, but the fact that he ignored it and he carried on with bigger and better things than just worry about aches and pains of the human body. So that's my thought of that incredible man.
Mhm.
I was talking to Nicole this morning and saying that the story he told, how Denzel basically, without knowing, helped him get through college.
Yeah.
And then years later, Denzel finds out. I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah. It's interesting. If I could say this again, I said this to some of you guys. Some of you guys already know this. My dream in life is to be a philanthropist. Okay, I sit here all the time and say, I got money to buy this, money to do that, money to go there, but I always talk myself out of it because I don't need it. And I worry so much about those out there that need the smallest thing that I can attain at just the press of an Amazon button, and I love what Denzel did because I would have done the same thing. Just give the money. What else are you going to hold on to? You can't die with it. So, just give it. So high respects for Denzel as well on that.
Yeah. Greg, when you hear the name Chadwick Boseman, what does it mean to you?
Like extraordinary. He had range. He wasn't just typecast as the biopic actor or the comic character. You know what I'm saying? And and I just think he left an amazing legacy. And just to think from what he was going through, like what Mark was saying, what he was going through with his sickness and how he was, he was not sharing that pain to nobody, just keeping it all inside and keeping it all hidden. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, I often think, I've thought about this a lot since his passing. I just think the impact he left, especially with like the children, and not just African American children, all children. I'm sure you've seen the post of the little young ones with the Black Panther memorials for Marvel, and he just left an amazing legacy for much everybody. But he's just simply amazing for the community. That's my take on it.
So I'm gonna bounce it back to you, Mark. Growing up, I know you. There wasn't a lot of what's the word, representation in Black culture on television. Do you remember the first time that you actually saw that?
Oh, guys, I might be the oldest guy on the screen right now, which makes me say that I remember sitting at home watching Julia. And if you remember what the show Julia was, it was Diane Carroll's first African-American female had to have her own television series. I remember watching that, all the time. But I have to be honest with you. You hear a lot of people, especially celebrities who are interviewed, say that, and Whoopi Goldberg being one example of saying, hey, I was shocked to see someone that looked like me on, national I never had that feeling. I'm not going to say experience, but necessarily the feeling. I don't know if it was because I was too young. God, when oh my God, you guys are going to do the math in a minute, but don't do it too fast, okay? I think Julia came out around 68 or 69, which would have made me around years old, you know, and I was young enough to comprehend what I was watching, but not old enough to relate to it as a groundbreaker. All I saw was some black woman on TV, but I wasn't old enough to say, oh my God, I've never seen that before, you know? So there really wasn't an impact, much like my mother would associate with almost immediately. There really wasn't an impact for me of seeing black people on television or even the movies. I mean, we had blaxploitation movies back when I was growing up, Buck and the Preacher, Shaft, Superfly, living in an urban neighborhood. And I'm from Baltimore, you know, streets of Baltimore. We were all basically almost, you know, all black city, just about Baltimore, Washington, D.C. area and whatever. And I remember my mother, oh my God, I'm dating myself again. I actually was in the theater to see Planet of the Apes, the Charlton Heston version. Okay, I hope you guys know who Charlton Heston is. Otherwise, I'm gonna smack you all.
I'm not that young.
Well, okay. But there was a black astronaut, okay, in Planet of the Apes. And it still didn't strike me as that, but the fact that we were being represented on it. Look, my mother grew up in the era of having to fight for her civil rights. I was a child to her bosom being carried around while she was actually going through the good fight. I was honored to have received that from people who have fought for me. But in terms of actually experiencing the fight, I honestly never had to do that. Even though I know it exists, I still experience racism today. The interesting about it is very, very covert and not all in your face. And I'm a black architect building a lot of crap for a lot of white people living in a red state here in the state of Florida. So believe me, I can smell it in the air when I'm around. So to answer your question again, representation, I had no impact. There's nothing that surprised me, you know, of seeing a black individual on television, because I honestly think I was just too young and too naive to know what the fight was all about.
Yeah, I see Carl had brought up Nichelle Nichols from Star Trek, and that was the first interracial kiss on television, right?
Right. Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm. And that made a lot of hoopla back in the day, right? I mean, it was all over. Like newspapers were talking about it, if I'm not mistaken. Media at that time.
Again, 68, 69. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just asking. At that time, it was all over. Like all the media was talking about it.
Yeah, it was a big thing, but I'm sorry, Greg. I don't mean to dominate, but I'm gonna answer this real quick and shut up.
Are you all right?
Yeah. Okay, man. It was more surprising. Okay, the attitudes were more dominant in the South. Okay, people lived in, you know, Baltimore, Washington, Philadelphia, Chicago, maybe some parts of Boston, things of that nature. That was a no-brainer. Who gives a damn? You know, white guys kissing a black girl. You know, we saw that on the basketball courts. We saw it, you know, in the staircases at school, more so in the North than anywhere else. It was the South who made a big issue of it. And the fact that we were getting a lot of products, being from the North, because I am a Northerner, we were getting a lot of products from the South. They felt that they had a little bit of leverage of stopping goods from coming to the North. So they pretty much thought that they can make a bigger fuss over it than people of the North, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But the fuss was more the South. They were dominant in terms of slavery and the whole nine yards, and Even during that time in the 60s, they thought that was still basically inappropriate. And the news media advertising says, oh, no, 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 we're not going to have that. What are you guys doing? We're going to stop cornflakes from coming into Baltimore now. You know.
So, Greg, I know you growing up around the same time as I did. We grew up with shows like The Cosby Show and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, who brought in real life issues that were actually happening in the real world and dealing with it. Do you want to give your thoughts on some of those episodes?
You think about the Cosby Show. That was like really one of the first shows you seen African Americans like picture like. I mean, Heathcliff Huxtable was the doctor and Claire was the lawyer. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't really no stereotype of that. You know, I mean, they wasn't portrayed as a negative stereotype as you would see. And like you say Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I mean, that was a real pivotal show for its time. You know, I mean, look at the impact it's left. I mean, even now today, it's still going strong. You know, to see a rich family like that, and we skyrocketed Will Smith to beyond what he done became. And like one of my all-time favorites, Family Matters. I mean,
yeah.
we just had good shows that everybody watched. I mean, it just wasn't the African American community. But they were pivotal. And
that's what I liked about all those shows is everybody was watching.
It gave us, a window into knowing that we all were pretty much the same. Like we all had, we all had the same kind of family issues, and we all had the same kind of, like we had real problems. And I think that it gave us a normal way of looking at how everybody was different but the same. And I think it kind of taught us how to reconcile that. Like if you lived in an area where it was predominantly white, you didn't have a lot of experience, you didn't have a lot of understanding of anything. You thought, oh, they're a lot different than us, but we're really not. And we all have the same problems, but what makes it different is the other experiences that we don't understand.
Yeah. Right. I'm so glad you said that, Nicole. That was brilliant what you said. I want to echo it because you hit it right on the nose here. And this is how not just serialized television works and sensationalized news work. They always focus on the negative. They find the bad, the worst, and all that stuff is propagated in the minds of the general public out there. And then that's a big issue. I was in a middle class. I was raised by a single mom. Okay, but we were middle class. Okay, we were still middle class. I know the projects. I know where, really deep down poor people live, but I knew more people in my class of earning, okay, than I did poverty-stricken individuals. Now, I had family members who I thought were a little under us on the scale in terms of financial gain, but being raised by a single mom, doing what she did, by herself, raising 3 children, we never suffered. I don't care if we were having, ketchup and bologna sandwiches on the weekend. You do put ketchup on your bologna, right, folks? Right, folks? Okay. So we were having, ketchup and bologna sandwich on the weekends. We were having fish sticks. My God, who remembers fish sticks and who do we kill for that? But we had spaghetti, Chef Boyardee stuff, ravioli. My God, my stomach was full. So there was nothing poverty-stricken about the way I grew up, not at all. But yet, television, they want to focus on good times. Look at Good Times. They weren't poor as much as they talked about it. For God's sakes, all those freaking mouths in that house, they didn't look like they were, losing weight, except JJ, and I think that was genetic. So, I don't know any instance of, serious poor people, in my life. It's what TV want to perpetuate. The same with the interracial kiss. It's like, oh my God, look what they're doing. And we're sitting there going, what's wrong with that? I don't get it. Who they talking to?
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in a magical time of, I was born in 82, and I remember a show called A Different World.
Yeah.
And the comedy around that show, like I absolutely loved the characters. I loved everything about that show growing up, and I think that was the show that kind of introduced me to the world of hip hop.
Right, and they were college kids. There wasn't a lot of money in my community around to put people through college, yet they put a college educated TV sitcom on TV that white kids can basically watch and still pick up our culture while being educated by college educated individuals. It was a step up, and it went from there with Cosby, and somebody in the chat room had mentioned something about the Wayans family and In Living Color.
In Living Color is a great show as well.
I love In Living Color. I mean, that introduced a lot of people. I mean,
J-Lo.
Jim Carrey, the whole Wayans family, Jamie Foxx.
What's his name?
Jim Carrey was in it.
Yeah, thank you. Jim Carrey, for God's sake.
Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what's the ugly chick he played? And she went on a
Wanda.
Oh my God, man!
Here's another good actor that came from there is David Allen Greer.
Yeah. David Allen Greer. Yeah. So, I got to scoot here in a bit, Brian, but
well, I do appreciate that you coming on and understanding why I wanted to do this.
Yeah, I just want to leave a final note. As long as we focus on the negatives on any race, we know they exist. We all know, and I'm black, brown, yellow, pink. We all know what my people have gone through coming up in the decades. We have so many accolades and thanks to give to our parents and their parents before them and so on, that if we continue to focus on what we went through, our 400 years of slavery and the whole 9 yards, if we have to continually say that to people, there was never no education dished out in the first place. Everyone knows our history, okay? And even though we honor ourselves with an entire month, it shouldn't be something that people don't know. What I am a little disappointed about is the education that's being, like Nicole started out with, the education that's being or not being given in school in terms of, my people. Now, granted, this is Black History Month, but I think it goes the same for a Native American month, Puerto Rican month. My God, any race of people that was under the boot of somebody, trying to control us, should continually be taught just so it doesn't happen again. So I want to say that I have a lot of friends on every end of the spectrum. I work with racist people all the time, every day. I work with Republicans, not my choice, but anyway, and I still think that all you need to do is just understand. We're not trying to force anyone to be anything other than correct. Just be correct. I know that I can recommend people not get a project from my company based on who I think they are, rebel flag on the truck, Proud Boys stickers or whatever. I understand business is business, but I will make a choice on whether I want to do business with them. And they cause that on their own because they are perpetrating hate, and that's what they're supposed to do. The problem is if you don't recognize the consequences of what you say and what you do, just keep on doing it and watch what happens. Simple as that, because history will kick your ass. You know, simple as that. So thank you so much for having me on. I have to actually go sign a contract for a new project. So I got to get on the road for that. But Brian, Nicole, you guys know I love you and all. Willow, Greg.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark, where can we find you?
Oh, thank you so much for saying that. Saturday mornings, every Saturday mornings at 9 a.m., get your ass out of bed. Keep your pajamas on, get a bowl of cereal, and belly up to HWWS and MBL Entertainment Group, which is my group. We do Saturday morning cartoons, okay? This morning, I was bored silly by a millennial because she knew the entire history of Pokemon. I wanted to shoot myself in the brain, okay? My God, it went for almost 2 hours and she wouldn't stop. I didn't know it was that enough information on Pokemon. Oh my, it was excruciating, but she is brilliant. Young 20-year-old girl named Rachel Rose. We talked about that. So every Saturday morning, except for next Saturday, we're off next Saturday. Every Saturday morning, we talk about what we grew up with. You know, all these old farts that are sitting in front of the screen right now. You guys, the Scooby-Doos and the Space Ghosts and the Josie and the Pussycats. Well, we focus on stuff like that. So that's every Saturday morning. So,
and that's at 9 a.m. Eastern.
Yes, get your ass out of bed. Like I said, I can do it. I work. But anyways, thanks, guys. I appreciate it all.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Okay, Willow. See you, Greg. Pleasure, man.
Pleasure too, my man.
Get to know you a little bit more. Okay.
All right, my man.
All right. See you, brother. Take care, man.
All right now.
Oh man, I love having Mark on here. I've known Mark since 2013. The dude is
when we moved to Florida.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you guys ever go to a convention and he's there, just stop and say hello because he does celebrity moderation for the panels.
He's moderating a panel. Stop in and just listen. It's
yeah, he's been doing it long enough that he knows how to hold the crowd in the hand.
I could definitely listen to him talk all day. That guy has a lot of nice, interesting stories. So it's
I guess just because I was thinking about what Mark was saying, I said, you know, this happened in my class this week. There was an article they read by Frederick Douglass, and so my kids didn't have any clue who Frederick Douglass was. And so you kind of have to give them a little bit of some background on what was happening around that time. And they know some, but they don't know a lot. And they're talking about, like Frederick Douglass gave an address to the 4th of July celebration in 1849. And his address was called the Hypocrisy of American Slavery. And my kids had no real understanding of why, of who he was, but also that, he could be speaking at this celebration of freedom and not be free. And the kids were like, oh my, as soon as they realized what hypocrisy meant, because they know who they know the hypocrites. Yeah. But they really started thinking about it. And they're like, wow, and didn't realize that was the, so when we have moments like that where we can talk about things, I think we need to be able to talk about that because our kids don't know that. And I think that they are standing on the shoulders of giants who did amazing things for the cause and they know nothing about it. They know about racism, but they don't see it the same way as even my generation, and even the generation above us. I don't think they see it the same way as, and so they need to be informed, but they need to be informed by people who actually know, not people who just think they know. And I think there's a lot of misinformation out there.
So I want to bring up this that Grant said. I'm guessing this came around when Mark was talking. But he says exactly, there's a penalty for having crappy opinions. That's not censorship. That's just there's a penalty to having crappy opinions.
When it's not about censorship. It's about, you have the freedom of speech. However, you are not free from the consequences of your decision. So if you
people have to remember that.
Exactly. And if you choose to spew hate, you're going to have to either accept the repercussions of it or understand that you will be hated in return.
Yeah.
So, Greg, I know you're a big fan of, rap, like NWA and stuff like that. And Biggie was a huge influence on you. We talked about this movie a lot because it's funny when, after I say this, but one of my favorite movies is Colors. I think Colors is a fantastic movie. Yeah. And it's so on the nose of the time and even today. Yeah. But as Mark said, we always look at just the negative stuff instead of the positive stuff. So, he's saying that every culture has their good and bad, and that goes for the police. Do you remember the first time you saw Colors, and how did it make you feel?
Well, the first time I saw Colors, I wasn't supposed to be looking at it because my uncle, he dubbed the tape. I'll never forget this. It had one other movie on it. It had Colors, and it had Ghostbusters 2.
That's a weird combination.
At the time, I didn't care about Colors. I wanted to see Ghostbusters 2. But I fast forwarded, and it landed on Colors. I was like, well. So I got to looking at it. But when I said, fast forward that crap, I was like, all right. So, but I really didn't watch Colors till I probably was like, I said about 17. And I was just, the depiction, I mean, for that time, the Bloods and the Crips and, the police in Los Angeles, it's a real pivotal movie. And I think it's a real underrated movie that doesn't get a lot of credit when you think of other movies around that later on in that time frame, like Boys in the Hood or Menace to Society.
What was the other one with Wesley Snipes that came out right around that time or shortly after? Sugar Hill,
New Jack City.
And, New Jack City.
Yeah, and of course you said Sugar Hill. That's another underrated film too. But it's I say you should watch it. It's great performances by you got a young Don Cheadle in there. Sean Penn. What's that dude's name? Glenn Plummer. He was in another hood movie, South Central. And you see a young Mario Lopez from Saved by the Bell. You'll miss him. You got to pay attention. You'll miss him real quick, but he's in there.
Well, Luisa was Maria Conchita Alonso. So, there were a lot of up and coming people in that movie that really put faces to different groups of people of color, and I mean all color, and it was just it was a good movie. I know it was gritty and I know it was probably not well received, but I
mean, I'm trying to remember, I think the two leads were Sean Penn and Robert Duvall. And I want to say, I think Robert Duvall that year was nominated for an Oscar for that role. If I'm not mistaken, I'll have to fact check that. But the way that movie is played, you talk about the Bloods and the Crips, and I guess the third gang would be the LA Police Department.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you have not seen this movie, 1988, I believe it came out. It's a fantastic movie. It is very gritty, but I suggest everyone, just if you love movies, I mean, fantastic performances.
And I was trying to find Colors for the longest time when I moved to Michigan. I was like, I cannot find Colors nowhere. I went to Walmart. everywhere. Then I saw it on digital. It was like $11. I said, I'm gonna get it. You know, it's in my collection of all my other hood movies and stuff. So, so yeah, it's a great film though.
I realized that one kind of started it, but that was the beginning of a lot of the national recognition that LA was getting for that time period.
What was the other one? Stand and Deliver, which is
and Stand and Deliver wasn't even, it was different, but Boys in the Hood came out in 92.
Yeah. That was a very young Cuban Gooding Jr. that was in that movie, right?
I was 12 when I saw Boys in the Hood, and I was like, this really happens? Like,
yeah.
Like, it was, and granted, like, I grew up outside of Flint. Like, I grew up outside of Flint. So there's a generally pretty dominantly white suburb outside of Flint. Yeah. But everything you did took you into Flint. So I worked in Flint. I went to school in Flint. I didn't know anybody that had to deal with that until I was like 17, 18, having to go to work. Mm-hmm. And so that was like my education of anybody that was different than me. I was like, wow, I didn't realize this even existed. So like watching movies like that, like I was much older when I saw Colors. I wasn't 8 when it came out. I was 8 when it came out. So I wasn't 8 when I saw it. But I was 12 or 13 when I saw Boys in the Hood. So I was like, well, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is that happening? Right. But, like being a girl living in Michigan, the whole, like, California is 100,000 miles away. Like California is so different. So it wasn't real to me then. But watching it now, I'm like, wow, knowing what I know now, crazy.
Yeah.
So,
and skilled people were in that movie too.
Yeah.
Get a better understanding of Ice Cube after watching that movie too.
There was a movie that was playing the other day that my husband, Red Tails, but there was like a movie prior to all that was pretty much the same kind of story. Both apparently have Cuba Gooding Jr. in it. So.
Oh yeah, was that
Tuskegee Airmen?
Yeah,
yes.
It was an HBO movie.
It was called Tuskegee, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
It was a good movie. And much like it had the same impact on me as like The Butler as well, and it just like hits you really hard in the feels, and it's like it's amazing how far we've come with our world to get over the racism, but how far we still have to go. And
that was an important part of military history as well, because they were the first like all black flying team.
Mm-hmm.
The other one was just recently. Was Green Book.
Mm-hmm.
With Mahershala Ali
and Viggo Mortensen. Viggo. But people that don't know what Green Book is, it is a book. Basically, it's a map, and it tells you all the places that Black people can eat, go to a hotel, get gas, and all of that
during the era of civil rights.
Yeah,
and I think like that, as painful as it was to watch, because you're like, I can't believe that this was how we. I can't believe that this is our history, first of all. But,
I would say what's interesting, though, is that it is a Black man, but not just your typical white man. It was an Italian, so he wasn't really white.
Well, and he understood the coming here and not fitting in and all that, but it was different still. But and they actually strike up a friendship like
Yeah.
where, you know, he's driving this very well-to-do Black man around, this very talented man who you wouldn't assume would have this stigma attached to him for any other reason than the fact that his skin is a different color.
Man, he made that piano sing.
But it was beautiful because he's like, I'm doing this to get paid. Viggo Mortensen's character was doing it to get paid, but he also realized that there was an underlying wrongness to it. Like,
they found out that
agree
they weren't much different.
They weren't that much different. Like, they both didn't agree with the way it was, but they both knew that's how it was. So they did what they could. And I think that is the underlying, I think that's the underlying thing that gets people to love any of the work that talks about racism, but doesn't smack you in the face and tell you you're a racist. Like, it told us that these are the things we need to understand. And I don't even want to say understand, because I'm never going to really understand it. Right. But to realize that I don't understand it, and to open a conversation. It's like, yeah, some things I'm going to be completely and 100% ignorant of. Mm-hmm. Because I couldn't possibly live somebody's life.
It puts the viewers in it allows the viewers to see a whole different side of what we were taught.
Right.
And you know what I really liked is, we talk about Green Book. Mahershala Ali, back-to-back in a movie, winning Academy Awards. He won for Moonlight the year prior.
Sorry.
And then Green Book. And Moonlight was a different story. It did revolve around the Black community, but it also involved being gay.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, I have my dog barking. But both of them, fantastic movies, fantastic role performances. And that's what I like is I'm a huge fan of Hollywood and movies in general, television.
Right.
You know, that's why I do this show. But
yeah.
Seeing performances from just, and it doesn't matter if you're white, blue, green, yellow. I mean, you can put out a good performance. And many of my favorite actors in Hollywood are not white. You know, so, let's kind of get off the Hollywood thing here and talk stand-up comedians.
Okay.
And I mean, we did talk about Bill Cosby, which I know the name is kind of, as we look now, but you cannot ignore the fact that him and Richard Pryor opened the door for a lot of Black stand-up comedians. When you listen to interviews from Eddie Murphy and Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock, they all talk about how Richard Pryor and Bill Cosby kind of opened the door for them to be stand-up comedians. Do you want to jump in on this, Greg, and tell me some of your favorite comedians?
So my favorite comedians, Eddie Murphy, Red Fox.
Oh, Red Fox.
Of course, Richard Pryor. The late Bernie Mac, and the late Robin Harris, because you know him from you've seen the House Party films.
Yeah,
House Party 1.
Bebe's Kids.
Yeah, he was in Do the Right Thing. You know, so yeah, and you got like Kevin Hart. I like Kevin Hart films. I mean, Dave Chappelle. You know, Craig Robinson up there. So you know, oh man, there's so many. But you talk about
Steve Harvey was one of the good ones as well. I actually liked his show and Cedric the Entertainer.
Yeah, that was a good show. Yeah, it was.
I gotta say, Steve Hart. I mean, I've always loved Family Feud, but Steve Harvey hosting Family Feud, especially when it's the celebrity version and the trolling that he does to the oh my god, he
to
is,
everyone, it's hilarious.
Yeah, it is hilarious.
Sorry, I'm momming right now.
So Christian has to do his Doctor Who thing here.
But I mean, he has a good point.
Well, and I think that isn't that the point? Like, if we stop judging people about the stuff that's on the outside, overall, the whole world would be a better place. Like, it wouldn't just stop at racism; it would be everything. Like, if we just treated people with, Martin Luther King wasn't wrong when he said, he wants to be judged by the content of his character, not the color of his skin.
That's the way it should be.
That's the way it should be. If you suck as a human, you suck as a human.
Yeah. I mean, I look forward to the day where because now we have you guys have your first black vice president. But I look forward to the day where we're not adding the color to the label. Yeah. Like, Canada has gone has kind of evolved a little bit with that, where we have had women leaders, and we allowed gay marriage 10 years prior to you guys, and it still boggles my mind how we're still, in my generation, we're still struggling with this.
I think Morgan Freeman said it best when I believe he was on a CNN thing, and it was a few years ago when he was doing, they were looking at his career and stuff, and he said, why do you have to refer to me as a black man?
No, they asked him. They asked him, when does racism end? And
right.
He said, when people stop referring to us with our color.
Yeah.
When people stop referring to me as a black man and you as a white man. Mm-hmm. That's when it stops, because we're both man.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that we can't discount the fact that hurt runs deep. Mm-hmm. But I understand that, because when we were reading Frederick Douglass, I told the kids, I said, you have to realize that, back then, who had the right to vote?
Right.
And the kids are like, well, men. And I went, men? And they were like, oh, well, white men. I'm like, yep, white men. Yeah. Women didn't have the right to vote until 1920. And even then, black men could vote before that. However, they were only 3/4 of a vote. Yeah. So they weren't even considered as a whole human being. Like, that is the problem right there. Yeah. Is like, we considered somebody subhuman and unable to have that right. That's a human right. It shouldn't be based on the color of somebody's skin. And the kids were really confused and really were like, oh, really? Like, it was only part of, not even a whole person. And I said, yeah, not even a whole person.
That's even what
they're like, wow. They couldn't believe it.
King said, people shouldn't be judged on the color of their skin, even though people shouldn't judge people on the color of their skin, because they're still human beings and they're still people that mean the same thing as humans.
That's right.
Okay. You're right, kid. Oh, I must tie shoes now. Ow. But look for a YouTube video of Mike Wallace interviewing Morgan Freeman. That's what it was. And so I think, and everybody, I think everybody has this opinion about, we're proud rat parents now.
Yeah, we have 2. I want to grow my rat empire to 3,000.
No.
Yeah.
If we have rat babies, we're feeding them to Hercules.
No!
Says, Mommy, let's get a snake. I said, you realize what snakes eat? And I'm like, okay, well, go get a rat. Well, the kids are like, well, he's really cute. We shouldn't feed him. I said, Hercules needs to eat. So you're going to put him in the cage. So Hercules walked around or like slithered around the rat and didn't eat it. And so for like 3 days, I'm like, what the heck am I going to do with this rat? And keep this rat alive. So now this rat is Stripe. And Stripe is now a part of our family. And since rats are social creatures, now we have Caramel. Because I had to go buy another one so that he wouldn't be lonely.
Oh.
Now the unfortunate black and white rat that Hercules did eat today. Sorry, but it's the circle of life. Anyways, this is my life now. Segue back to what we should be talking about.
So
I was going to say, when we're talking about this, most recently in the news, since this is sort of fresh, Jordan Peele. When a couple years ago,
when Get Out and Us came out,
there was a thing where he said he was not going to hire white leads for his roles, which, of course, the media, spun it a different way, which he never said he wasn't going to hire white people. He just said he wasn't going to hire them for leads because he wanted to. That's Caramel. He wanted to showcase black talent.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, that's his right to do because he is a very good director, and I would like to see more lead roles go to the black community because we have actors like Cuba Gooding Jr. who are fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, Get Out and Us, I believe, were really good psychological thriller. I mean, they weren't really horror movies. I mean, they had horror elements based on real life horror.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of what he was really trying to say when he was writing the movies is that the monster within is always the monster. Like,
right.
It's not always the serial killer or the monster under the bed. It's sometimes the monster that we perpetuate.
Right. Yeah.
Christian says.
Rats and racism. Well, you're not wrong with calling them that.
So when you first saw the movie Get Out, what was like the first thought in your head, Greg, after watching it for the very first time? If you can remember.
I can remember what I was thinking. I was like, I thought it was good. I mean, I thought it was excellent. But like towards the end, like if you remember, when I think he had shot her or something and the car pulled up, I was like, oh damn, it's the police. They're finna get him. And then it was his friend. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, I look at that movie, I mean, it's a game changer, And Jordan Peele, I said this to a couple of my friends. I said, he's gonna be like the next Alfred Hitchcock, in my opinion. Because his movies are just a mind trip.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also a great comedian. He came from Key and Peele.
Yeah, and I'm anxious to what he gonna do with this Candyman. And of course, I heard he's attached to remake People Under the Stairs, which I think is an excellent film, underrated too. So
Nicole loves that film.
I'm looking forward to a more creepier version of that movie. I mean, the movie the movie itself had creeped me out as a kid, but
I was 8 years old when that movie came out. I was scared to death.
What, people on the
But I
stairs?
was.
No, you were 8.
People under the stairs.
No, you were older
Yeah.
than
Was I
that.
older than that? Was I 11 or something? I don't know. I wasn't thinking anyways. But that movie scared the crap out of me. But it scared the crap out of me for a different reason. Like that, there could really be people. I mean, the jump scare of the thing jumping out at you, but that there could be people that could actually do that to their children. That was my thing.
Right,
but,
right. Yeah.
What if my mom decided not to love me tomorrow and she put me in the wall? Sorry.
Growing up in foster care, you hear stories. Unfortunately,
Because kids are paychecks then.
Yeah.
But I do kind of want to talk about Candyman though, because
Tony Todd's Candyman.
Tony Todd is a very scary man.
I love his voice.
But I do wonder if it's his voice, the deepness of it.
Yeah.
That was a really great movie, though, and the fact that they actually did like the scene with the bees, and they actually had him have the bees in his mouth, and that's spectacular.
But they actually filmed the film in Chicago, and it's based on based on a real events. Not so the Candyman-ish part, but the apartment complex. Oh God!
Sorry, bad image should be showing. Sorry.
I think I was
That came out in 1990.
I was like 38 years old before I saw the whole thing. So, I mean, it's a testament to the scary part of it, but I think when we talk about places that are synonymous with racism and holding people down, I think that what was it? I don't ever remember the name of it.
The community in Chicago. Here, I'll look it up. Go ahead and
Cabrini
Green.
Yeah.
You know, and you watch them walk in, and everybody's kind of like, you know, what are you doing here? And I ain't supposed to talk to you. And
right.
It was, you know, it's built on fear, but it's built on cultural fear too.
Mommy, I just use all the tape.
Whatever.
But before that, he was in the remake. Well, actually, I think it might have came out in the same year. He was in the remake of Night of the Living Dead. But if you remember the original Night of the Living Dead in 1968, I don't remember the actor's name, but he was a black actor and he was a hero. He was like one of the first African American heroes in a horror film.
But I always wonder how people like we do token people a lot. Yeah. So we got the token Asian and the token black guy and the token blah blah. So, but in Night of the Living Dead, I feel like
Dwayne Jones is his name.
Yeah.
Yes.
There were this whole group of people. It was like, well, if we don't band together, then the zombies are going to eat us, kind of thing. So it was like we had to figure out a way to make it. If you put the rat down, see, I'm starting to think that a good proponent for the reason that we have a rat is him.
But
yeah.
So is there anything that you want to add, Greg?
As I just hear ramble.
Like add like to what? Like the topic or
Was there something like in the media or in pop culture in general that stuck with you?
I would say, when you talk about movies, I would say like
yeah.
Okay. I was very young. I was probably like I think around 7 or 8, and my mother was watching the story of Jane Pittman with Cicely Tyson, and I just walked in towards like the end of the movie, and I saw it's the scene where she finally goes up and drinks out of the white only water fountain, and that image has stuck with me for so long. It was such a pivotal moment in Black history. Also, I would like to say earlier before Brian messaged me to be on the show, I was watching Roots, and that was for the time back in the '70s. That was like a big pivotal event, miniseries event, and I never realized how many great stars were in Roots. Like from O.J. Simpson, Cicely Tyson herself.
LeVar Burton.
LeVar Burton, John Amos from Good Times. So I mean, I didn't even get to finish it. I was like three episodes in. I just resubscribed to HBO Max and they had it on there. So yeah. And
here's one that we didn't bring up: The Color Purple.
Yeah.
Which was Whoopi Goldberg and Oprah.
Oprah, Danny Glover, Lawrence Fishburne is in that as well. Didn't Steven Spielberg direct that? If I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. I mean,
I'm not 100% sure.
I will check that out here. I'm sure Willow's probably already on it.
We just lost Cicely Tyson
yeah.
Not even a month ago.
Nah.
Yes, Steven Spielberg.
So,
and Quincy Jones was a producer. And you want to talk about someone that's huge, not only in the film industry, but the music industry. It's Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
And I guess when we're talking about music and horror and influence, Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Michael Jackson in general just he influenced fashion, he influenced music.
Yeah.
Charity work, all the charity work he did, not just in the United States, all over the world.
Well, and he influenced pop culture so much.
Yeah.
Like everything that we've done. And you know what? I like that comment right there.
Which one?
Mark Muncie's comment. So when we talk about as people that are understanding history and being a history buff, those lesser known historical figures, like, I mean, we just had Hidden Figures come out with all the women that work for NASA. You know, like in general, those aren't people that are highly visible. So like we were talking pre-show that a lot of kids believe that the only thing that they can be is a rapper or a sports figure. And that's because the other figures in as far as representation is concerned, aren't as visible. Like the kids don't know who Ben Carson is, and they don't know who those women of NASA were. Like they don't know their names. They don't know.
What's the science physics guy? He does TV shows and tours and has books.
Neil Tyson deGrasse.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not Degrassi, but I don't know. DeGrasse, whatever. Neil Tyson.
Yeah, I mean
the space guy.
Prince.
Yeah. But funny story, when Purple Rain came out, I told my aunt that I was going to marry Prince someday. It hasn't happened. I think it would have been interesting to be, you know, 'cause he was at least 20 years older than me, but funny story.
So, Greg, if you had to look back at Black history in pulp culture and life in general and your life, and you were talking to your younger self, what would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self to just open his eyes and just pay attention, soak up all the information he can. You know, because when I was in school, they taught us Black history. You know, we had like a Black history pageant, and ironically enough, the person I got stuck with was Bill Cosby. So that was like the second grade, and you know, going back to our conversation before the show about Bill Cosby, but I would just say, I would tell my young self just pay attention and just learn, just not only the pop culture, but you know, the historical figures of Black history, Frederick Douglass, George Washington Carver, you know, Martin Luther King, you know, Malcolm X. So many, Muhammad Ali, Sam Cooke. There's so many that you could just get knowledge from, you know.
Well, Carl, that's it.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is that a lot of the movie that Chadwick Boseman was working on, right before he passed,
the one that just came out on Netflix,
that just came out, I think, you know, we talk about how people weren't allowed to do those things, but they were considered, you know, pillars of the community that we didn't know anything about. And we would go and listen to their music, but we never treated them the same as, you know, as we would of anybody else. And, you know, if like I said, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Like if we don't know our history, we're lost. And I think that's part of understanding, is part of our understanding our privilege too, is that, you know, we might not have perpetuated what happened 300 years ago, but it doesn't mean that we have to continue to perpetuate it now.
Yeah, I'm looking here. We talk about Chadwick Boseman. He was in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which is his last film that he just did. And then he played Jackie Robinson in the movie 42, and then he also played James Brown in Get On Up. So, these are characters that are important
to our
history.
Our history.
And he also played
Marshall.
Yeah, the Marshall.
Yeah.
And not just Black history, but to our history. These people changed who we are too. They changed the way we see the world.
In Canada, we had changed our money. And it features a woman called Viola Desmond. She is one of our she was a civil rights activist. And so I'm happy that we have progressed that much in our future, that we're featuring prominent people on our own money, and allowing that story to be told as well. We have our own situation where we're trying very hard to we're trying to remember our past and learn from it, instead of always just sweeping it underneath the rug and ignoring it. Sorry, I keep hitting my mic. I apologize.
I think that's the important thing, though, is we can tear all this stuff down and we can say it never happened, or we can come to terms with it and say, this is what happened. And we have to do better.
Well, that's just it. Like, there's stuff in the Canadian history books that aren't even being told. And, you know, I'm just tired of learning years later of the truth.
Right.
And it's not even, I mean, it goes with all colors too, but I think that when we say that, you know, we're going to honor people during a month of the year, I think we should be honoring everyone by telling the history that matters. Like, you know, what really happened. You know, we need to come out and say, well, this was messed up, and we have to come to terms with it. Like, we only start to heal if we do come to terms with it and say, yeah, we did this and we screwed up, but this is how we do better.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So here's a couple of different subjects that falls in line with our show. Comics and wrestling. Let's talk about The Rock and people like Ron Simmons and even The Rock's dad, Rocky Johnson.
Shut up.
The Rock is, I mean, what he did for the wrestling world. I mean, he was following the footsteps of not only his dad, but the Samoan heritage in wrestling.
Yeah.
Is there something you want to add to that about in wrestling? I know you're a huge wrestling fan, just like me, on Black professional wrestlers.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give a lot of credit and respect for Dwayne Johnson, also Ron Simmons, the first African American heavyweight champion. You know, I mean, guys like Booker T, Butch Reed, who just recently passed, Mark Henry. You know, and think about these new guys. I mean, Keith Lee, he's still keep going strong, and you know, I mean, I think he got an excellent future. Even though I said I was gonna quit watching wrestling when the Undertaker retired, but I got sucked right back in. But there was just so many. R-Truth, who I think is a comedic genius, and Kofi Kingston. You know,
I mean, the whole New Day.
Yeah, I wish Kofi's run would have lasted a little bit longer. You know, but I'm just so happy he just got to carry the company for a little while, you know, and also the women, Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. You know, yeah. You know, it's.
And then I know Willow and I talked about this a couple days ago. In the comic world, you know, you got characters like Black Panther and Static Shock.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, Static Shock. I didn't pick up the comic book growing up, but the cartoon, I remember watching it and being like, "Whoa, this is awesome!" and realizing later that it was a character based on a comic book. And shows like that, it was well written, it was well scripted. Well drawn, and the people who created it were, you know, members of the Black community, and it's just it didn't take until the 90s to show this kind of creativity off from these people is like.
I mean, and then if you look at when the Ultimates from Marvel came out, they introduced Nick Fury, which they've said was always kind of based on Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah. But one of the first Black characters in the Marvel universe was Cage.
Luke Cage. Yeah.
Luke Cage.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
Black Panther actually came before Luke Cage because he was
My
introduced
apologies.
in Fantastic Four.
Well,
But yeah, Luke Cage, a very popular character.
well, and with the rise in like Captain Marvel and even now WandaVision, we're seeing a whole nother, well, in Deadpool too, because we got our first sights of Domino.
Mhm.
And we are going to see probably at some point see Monica Rambeau become Photon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
And
in the comics, she was actually the first Captain Marvel.
and really start seeing, really start seeing more representation, which I think is important. But
Yeah.
also, in the indie world of comics, we have amazing, just within our little group that have so much to tell, so many stories and so many really cool things to tell, coming from their own perspectives and, putting representation out there so that people can see and understand. And I think that we need to open conversations like that where we are understanding
Mhm.
and maybe start making sure that we talk about how when we say we don't understand and we ask you a question, it's not about it's not about showing how it is. It's about being vulnerable enough to say I don't know.
Right.
And that
Right.
I want you to tell me, I want you to share some insight because I don't know.
Yeah.
And it comes from what you don't see. Like I tell my kids, I'm like, I saw very little, the only representation of anybody of color that I ever really had growing up below the age of 15 was what you saw on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always good.
Right.
So when Fresh Prince of Bel-Air came on, when different
Different
worlds,
Yeah.
world.
and even different strokes, like even
Yeah.
like way before that,
Yeah.
and Punky Brewster's best friend,
Cherry.
Mhm.
Cherry.
Oh my,
So,
she's beautiful.
little things like that, and even Tootie on Facts of Life.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
there was only a very small amount of people that you ever saw that represented the other side of what you saw in the news. And,
Yeah.
so we didn't grow up understanding that. So
Mhm.
I always tell people, I'm like, the worst thing people can say to me is, well, you don't understand because you're white. And you're right. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So take this opportunity of me being vulnerable right now and show me, tell me, because if there's something that I've done, then, I'll check my privilege at the door, enlighten me because I don't know. And I could never begin to know.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like asking somebody who's ever committed suicide. Why? Like I would never begin to understand that because I've never been that low.
Yeah.
So, it's like, I'll never know what it's like to be that. It's in my purse. Go get it. So I think it's opening those airwaves and having those conversations that matter on both sides. It's like we all have pain, but let's talk about how that pain is either exacerbated by your experiences or, whatever. Like I think Mark hit it really hot, really good, really well. Is that, when we talk about Chadwick Boseman, we had no idea. Like, I mean, that kind of cancer ravages your body, and he never
said anything.
never said anything, never shared it with anybody, went through chemo and was on the set. Like,
and I'm sure Kevin Feige and Marvel knew this when they hired him as Black Panther, because of insurance reasons or whatever. But
probably,
that they respected his wishes and not said anything.
But I think that was the point. Like, we've always in all history, I feel like if you were Black, you were expected to be better. Like you were expected to act better and do all those things. And you couldn't just be a normal a normal human being. You had to almost be superhero like.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
Jackie Robinson.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Greg,
You know?
would you say? I mean, is that how it was for you?
What's that?
Growing up, like you were expected to be better. I mean,
In order to get a fair shake.
Yeah, you get that typecast. You expected to run fast or shoot a jump shot. You expected of that because of your color, but that's not always the case. We're all not. I mean, we're all not talented like that. We all don't have the skill to dribble that basketball or catch that football or make that tackle. You know, so yeah, it's and like earlier when you were saying, Mark was saying about Chadwick, like he didn't say nothing because that was his strength. And as an African American, it's I don't know, it's just something in us that we try not to show everybody our pain or show our sickness.
Yeah.
I feel like that comes from that stoic nature of our history. Like Jackie Robinson was told that you have to be better. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't talk to people. You even if you're upset, you have to remain.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to remain complacent. You have to allow it to happen. And like I think that kind of seeped into the culture. Is like that's just the way. It's just the way it is.
I mean, look at one of the greatest baseball players of all time that just passed away last week or the week before, Hank Aaron.
Yeah.
And I lost whatever I was going to say, but
we do have to end it because you have a meeting.
I have to go.
But Greg, I appreciate you wanting to come on and understanding why I wanted to do this. So
I feel like we didn't even touch on.
I mean, there's so much
amazingness that we have that we have out there to just watch and enjoy. Like, I mean,
before you go, I just want to say you guys are doing great.
Thank you.
This is great. Keep doing what you do. This was amazing today. And it's people out there. You're gonna have your critics. You're gonna have your trolls.
Yeah.
This is great. You guys are doing awesome. I'm behind everybody 100%. I have so much love for all of y'all, and I just thank you from the bottom of my heart letting me come on here. And to the future, y'all. Keep doing what you do.
Thank you. And where can people find you on social media, Greg?
Catch me on Facebook, Greg LaVance Robbins. I'm on Instagram. I can't even think of my Instagram handle right now, but I'm everywhere. TikTok.
TikTok. Oh yeah, I have you seen his TikTok stuff? Man, he's worldwide. He had somebody from the UK message him on TikTok. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
You're quite the comedian, you.
I'm trying.
You know what, though? I think if you've gone through, all of this plus all the other stuff up to, you've been around for 40 years, you kind of have to be funny because that's how we deal with all the crap that's gone on. Especially this year.
Yeah.
And I know I won't be joining you because I'm watching NXT, but tomorrow night you're joining Willow on Willow's Pillow Talk.
I am.
We're kind of poking fun at romantic music.
The good and the bad, huh?
Well, I mean, some romantic music is both good and bad.
Yeah, and what time is that episode?
8 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central.
All right, and
I'll have to go to work on Monday, so. stay up and party. No.
So next week, Reels and Heels might have a show, but from Sci-Fi Bartow, as we're joining.
Might have a show.
Yeah, we're going to be joining Garrett and the crew there at Sci-Fi Bartow. So
I'm going to assume that we probably won't have a show because
yeah,
maybe we'll pop on and talk about Sci-Fi Bartow, like what we're seeing and what we're doing, but I can't even imagine that we'd have.
Well, I mean, give me a heads up if you guys want me to, if you guys are gonna pop in and give us let us know what you guys are doing. Give us a tour.
Always fun.
yeah.
It's always fun. I think that's probably what we should do is do like a tour of where we're going. It's just that we'll only have our mobile.
Yeah, so it probably
StreamYard will not.
Yeah, it'll be from the Facebook page.
It'll be from the Facebook page actually. So
hey, live from Facebook.
I have to go and sign for my taxes, so at some point I can get my refund and fix the poor car.
Yes.
But
But
and probably the other million things that we'll have to pay for. But
this has been a fun conversation and a very important
Yeah.
conversation, and I think more people need to have this. See, we can have a conversation without getting into an argument. It can be done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Puppy.
So I love everybody.
Nicole, you need to come see the puppy.
Puppy. So adorable.
Yeah.
What's your dog's name?
oh my god!
This is Misty.
Oh.
Misty.
Hey,
Oh, see, Dingo approves.
come here.
Hey.
Dingo.
Hey.
Be good.
Well,
See?
until
I have no
guess,
cat by me, so I can't introduce you.
but until the next episode, it's time to ring the bell.
All right.